Marcus has been homeless for 8 years. Every night, he sleeps in the same doorway of an old building in downtown Chicago. Tonight is different. The temperature has dropped below zero, and in his usual spot, he finds a teenage girl. She's pregnant, shivering, and wearing only a thin jacket. Without hesitation, Marcus gives her his warmest blanket and leads her to the shelter he calls home. He doesn't know that she's Isabella Montgomery, who just ran away from a billion-dollar mansion and a family that wants to control her life. As Marcus shares his food and his stories with her, Isabella keeps her secret. For the first time in her life, someone cares about her, not her money. But secrets this big never stay hidden for long. What will happen when Marcus discovers the girl he's been protecting could buy the entire city block he sleeps on? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The military blanket wrapped around Isabella's shoulders was threadbare but warm, carrying the musty scent of years spent on the streets. Marcus guided her through the maze of back alleys, his practiced eyes scanning the shadows for danger. The wind howled between the buildings, carrying stinging particles of ice that made Isabella pull the blanket tighter around herself. "Just a little further," Marcus said, his voice gentle but firm. "Watch your step here." He pointed to a patch of ice with his flashlight, its beam weak from old batteries. Isabella followed carefully, one hand protectively cradling her swollen belly. As she stepped over the ice, something fluttered from her jacket pocket, a piece of paper that caught the wind. Marcus snatched it from the air with the quick reflexes of someone used to protecting his few possessions. "Wait," Isabella started, but Marcus had already seen what it was, an ultrasound photo creased and worn from frequent handling. 7 months along, according to the date printed in the corner. The image showed a clear profile, a tiny nose, a curved forehead, a hand raised as if waving. "Looks like a fighter," Marcus said softly, handing the photo back. He didn't ask questions, didn't demand explanations. 8 years on the streets had taught him that everyone had their reasons, their stories, their secrets. Isabella tucked the photo away, blinking back tears. "Thank you," she whispered, though whether for returning the photo or not prying, she wasn't sure. They reached an abandoned loading dock behind what had once been a furniture warehouse. Marcus moved aside a piece of plywood, revealing a narrow entrance. "Home, sweet home," he said, with a hint of self-deprecating humor. "It's not much, but it's dry and the wind can't get in." Inside, the space was small but meticulously organized. Cardboard boxes lined the walls, creating insulation. A sleeping bag lay on a raised pallet of wooden pallets, keeping it off the concrete floor. In one corner, a milk crate held neatly arranged supplies, bottles of water, granola bars, a first aid kit. "Military habits die hard," Marcus explained, noticing Isabella's surprise at the orderliness. "Spent 12 years in the army before—" He trailed off, busying himself with arranging a makeshift bed for Isabella, using spare blankets and his emergency sleeping bag. "You were a soldier?" Isabella asked, settling onto the bedding. Her voice held genuine interest, not the pity or judgment Marcus had grown used to hearing. "Army Rangers." He pulled a granola bar from his supplies and handed it to her. "Eat. You're eating for 2 now." As Isabella unwrapped the bar, her hands trembled. From cold or emotion, Marcus couldn't tell. "I can't take your food," she protested weakly, even as her stomach growled audibly. "I know where to get more." Marcus sat on his pallet, keeping a respectful distance. "The shelter on Jefferson Street serves breakfast at 7. Good oatmeal, if you don't mind powdered milk. And Sister Mary usually has prenatal vitamins stashed away for—" He gestured vaguely at her belly. Isabella took a small bite of the granola bar, savoring it like it was a gourmet meal. Everything felt surreal. The concrete walls, the distant sound of traffic, the kindness of this stranger who had nothing yet offered everything. A sharp kick from the baby made her gasp. Without thinking, she reached for Marcus's hand and placed it on her belly. The baby kicked again, strong and determined. Marcus's weathered face softened. "Definitely a fighter," he repeated. Then, pulling his hand back, he added gruffly, "Should try to get some sleep. Morning comes early on the streets." As Isabella lay down, pulling the blankets close, she watched Marcus settle into his own bed. He kept his boots on, she noticed, and positioned himself between her and the entrance, a protector even now. "Marcus," she whispered into the darkness. Why are you helping me?" There was a long pause before he answered. "Because someone once helped me. Get some sleep. Kid, tomorrow's another day." Isabella closed her eyes, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the city night. For the first time since leaving home, she felt safe. The irony wasn't lost on her, finding safety with a homeless stranger rather than in her family's mansion. As she drifted off to sleep, her hand rested on her belly, and she whispered a promise to her unborn child. "We're going to be okay." Morning arrived with the rhythmic rumble of delivery trucks and the distant wail of sirens. Isabella woke disoriented, her back aching from the hard floor. For a moment, panic seized her as she took in the unfamiliar surroundings. Then she remembered. The doorway, the blanket, Marcus. He was already awake, carefully repacking his few possessions into a weathered backpack. Morning light filtered through cracks in the plywood, catching on something metallic in his hands. A medal, bronze and weathered, attached to a faded ribbon. "You're up," he said, quickly tucking the medal away. But Isabella had already seen it. A bronze star. Her voice carried a knowledge that made Marcus look at her sharply. "My grandfather had one. He never talked about how he got it." Marcus zipped his backpack with deliberate slowness. "Some things are better left in the past." "Is that why you're here?" Isabella asked softly. "Because of what happened over there?" A muscle twitched in Marcus's jaw. "Part of it. War changes. You, coming home. Sometimes that changes you more." He stood, shouldering his pack. "We should get moving. Shelter starts serving breakfast soon, and you need proper food." Outside, the city was awakening. Early morning commuters hurried past, their eyes sliding away from the obvious homelessness of Marcus and the incongruous sight of Isabella in her expensive, if dirty, maternity clothes. "Keep your head down," Marcus advised as they walked. "Don't make eye contact. Most people won't bother you, but some." He trailed off as a police car cruised past. Isabella tensed, but the car didn't slow. Still, she saw Marcus noting her reaction. Too much fear for a simple runaway. She needed to be more careful. At the shelter, Sister Mary was already organizing. The breakfast line. Her sharp eyes took in Isabella's condition immediately. "A new friend, Marcus?" she asked, leading them to a quiet corner table. "Found her in my doorway last night. Too cold to leave her out there." Marcus's tone was casual, but his eyes conveyed a message. "Don't ask too many questions." Sister Mary nodded, returning moments later with 2 bowls of oatmeal and, discreetly, a bottle of prenatal vitamins. "Eat up, dear, both of you." As they ate, Isabella watched Marcus interact with other shelter residents. They treated him with respect, some even deference. A veteran named Tom called him Sarge and asked advice about a VA appointment. A young woman with haunted eyes brightened when Marcus promised to help fix her broken cart. "They trust you," Isabella observed. Marcus stirred his oatmeal. "Trust keeps you alive out here. That, and knowing who to trust back." He looked at her steadily. "I'm not asking your story, but if you're running from something or someone, I need to know if it's going to bring trouble." Isabella's hand went instinctively to her belly. I'm not running from the baby's father, if that's what you're thinking. It's complicated." "Life usually is." Marcus pushed his half-finished oatmeal toward her. "Eat, you need it more than I do." A television mounted in the corner suddenly caught Isabella's attention. A news ticker scrolled across the bottom. "Search continues for missing Montgomery heiress." Her school photo flashed briefly on the screen. Marcus was focused on greeting another veteran and missed it. Isabella forced herself to keep eating. Normally, even as her heart raced, her father would have every private investigator in Chicago looking for her by now. "Marcus?" Her voice was carefully steady. If I needed to leave the city, hypothetically, would you know the safest way? He studied her face for a long moment. Hypothetically, he said finally, I might know some people who could help. But running isn't always the answer. Sometimes standing your ground is the braver choice. Sometimes there's nothing brave about staying, Isabella whispered, thinking of the arranged marriage her father had planned, of the prenuptial agreement that would have given her husband control of her inheritance, of her mother's silent tears at family dinners. Marcus's expression softened. No, sometimes there isn't. He reached into his pocket and withdrew the bronze star, placing it on the table between them. I got this for standing my ground when running might have been smarter. Lost 8 good men that day. Sometimes courage isn't about fighting. It's about knowing which battles are worth fighting. Isabella touched the medal gently. How do you know which battles those are? You look at what you're fighting for. Marcus nodded, toward her belly. Seems to me you've already made that choice. After breakfast, Marcus led Isabella to a free clinic 6 blocks away. While they waited in the crowded room, Isabella pulled a small leather-bound journal from her coat pocket. The cover was soft from handling, its edges worn. She hadn't written in it since leaving home 3 days ago. You keep a diary? Marcus asked, noting the way her fingers traced the binding. Since I was 12. Isabella opened it to a random page, her neat handwriting filling the lines. It helps me think clearly. Sometimes that's hard, when everyone else is trying to think for you. A passage caught her eye. Dad announced the merger today, said joining the companies through marriage was the sensible solution, called it a mutually beneficial arrangement. That's when I realized he sees me as just another asset to leverage. Mom sat there silently, like always. When I tried to object, he said I'd understand when I was older. I'm 17, old enough to carry a child, but apparently not old enough to choose my own future. Marcus wasn't reading over her shoulder, but he noticed her hands trembling. Bad memories, more like unwanted futures. Isabella closed the journal. The baby, it wasn't planned. When I told my father, he said it was perfect timing, said it would cement the merger. He'd already drawn up marriage papers. The nurse called Isabella's name before Marcus could respond. He started to remain seated, but Isabella grabbed his hand. Please, come with me. Inside the examination room, the nurse frowned at Isabella's blood pressure reading. A bit high, honey. You been under stress? Isabella laughed hollowly. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. The doctor, a young woman with kind eyes, arrived with an ultrasound machine. Let's check on this little one, shall we? She squirted gel on Isabella's belly, moving the wand carefully. Have you been getting regular prenatal care? Yes, Isabella hesitated. Until recently. The doctor's expression remained neutral, but her eyes flickered to Marcus, making assumptions. He stood straighter, protective. There's some concern about the placental positioning, the doctor said finally. Nothing emergency level yet, but you'll need monitoring, regular monitoring. She emphasized the last words. Do you have somewhere stable to stay? Before Isabella could answer, Marcus spoke up. She's got support. We'll make sure she gets care. The doctor wrote on her clipboard. I'm putting you in touch with our social worker. She can help with resources, housing options. We're fine, Isabella said quickly. At least take the referral. The doctor held out a card. Sarah's good people. She won't ask more questions than you want to answer. Outside the clinic, Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, you need proper medical care, a real bed, regular meals. Isabella clutched her journal tighter. I'm not going back. Wasn't suggesting that. Marcus sighed. But we need a better plan than my loading dock. They walked past a newsstand. Isabella's face was on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. Montgomery. Heiress still missing. The reward amount made her feel sick. Marcus saw it too. His step faltered for just a moment. Montgomery, he said quietly. As in Montgomery Financial. Isabella's heart stopped. Marcus, don't. He held up a hand. Not here. Too many ears. They walked in tense silence until reaching a small park. Marcus led them to a secluded bench. "Your father," he said carefully, "is William Montgomery?" Isabella nodded miserably. "Now you understand why I can't go to shelters, why I can't use my insurance, my ID, anything. He's got people everywhere." "And the marriage? The merger?" Isabella opened her journal again, turning to a newspaper clipping. James Preston III, Dad's biggest competitor in sustainable energy. The marriage would merge the companies, eliminate competition, and— She swallowed hard. "Preston's 38. The prenup gives him full control of my inheritance for the good of the company." Marcus stared at the clipping, at the smiling face of James Preston III. Something dark crossed his expression. "And the baby?" Preston's lawyer already drew up. "Adoption papers, a discreet agency." Isabella's voice broke. "My baby would disappear, and I'd be the grieving young mother, consoled by my devoted husband." Marcus stood abruptly, pacing, his hands clenched and unclenched. Finally, he turned back to her. "You were right to run." Relief flooded through Isabella. "You believe me, kid? I've seen enough evil dressed in expensive suits to last a lifetime." He sat back down. "But this complicates things. Your father's reach is significant." "I know." Isabella touched her belly as the baby kicked. "But so is a mother's love." That evening, as they shared a sandwich from a church outreach program, Isabella noticed Marcus repeatedly touching his backpack, checking its position. Something was troubling him. "You don't have to tell me," she said softly, "but I can listen." Marcus was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't respond. Then he reached into the backpack and pulled out a plastic sleeve containing a yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline read, "Local hero's wife dies in hospital tragedy." "Sarah was a fighter," he said, smoothing the creased paper. "We met when I was stationed at Fort Bragg. She was an ER nurse, worked double shifts, never complained. When I got hurt in Afghanistan, she's the one who put me back together." The article showed a younger Marcus in his dress uniform, standing beside a smiling woman with kind eyes. Isabella read silently. "Sarah Stone, 32, died yesterday at Memorial Hospital following what authorities are calling a series of preventable medical errors. Her husband, decorated Army Ranger Marcus Stone, had recently returned from deployment." "This should never have happened," said Dr. James Chen, chief of surgery. "The system failed her." The hospital's parent company, Preston Medical Group, declined to comment. Isabella's head snapped up. "Preston Medical Group?" Marcus nodded grimly. "James Preston, too, current CEO's father. They owned the hospital chain. When I tried to sue—" He laughed bitterly. "Let's just say their lawyers were very thorough. Lost everything in legal fees. Then the PTSD hit hard. Started drinking. Lost my job, our house." He carefully returned the clipping to its sleeve. "Sarah deserved justice. I couldn't even give her that." Isabella's hands shook as she processed. "The connection. Does my father know about your history with the Prestons?" "Doubt it. I'm just another homeless vet to them now." Marcus's eyes hardened. "But their boy wanting to marry you, planning to take your baby. History has a way of coming full circle." A cold wind gusted through the park. Isabella huddled closer to Marcus, who automatically adjusted his coat to shield her better. "The hospital where I've been getting prenatal care," she said quietly. "It's Preston-owned. They've had access to all my records." Marcus went very still. "The adoption agency they recommended, Preston Family Services." Isabella felt sick. "They've been planning this from the start, haven't they? Using my pregnancy to gain control of Montgomery Financial through you." Marcus's voice was flat. "Your father might not even know the whole game they're playing." A pair of suited men walked past their bench, speaking into phones. Marcus casually turned his face away, but Isabella saw how his body tensed. "Private investigators," he murmured once they passed. "Getting closer. We need to move. Where can we go? They'll have people watching all the shelters." Marcus stood, helping Isabella up. "I know some people, veterans who understand about fighting impossible odds." He shouldered his backpack. "But First, we need to get Sarah involved. Sarah, the social worker from the clinic, she works with domestic violence survivors, helps them disappear when needed. His expression softened. Named after my Sarah. They were friends before. Isabella touched the pocket holding her journal. I'll write it all down, every detail, every plan they made. If anything happens to me, nothing's going to happen to you. Marcus's voice carried the same commanding tone he must have used in combat, or your baby. I couldn't save Sarah, but maybe, he took a deep breath, maybe this is why I'm still here, why you found my doorway that night. As they walked, Isabella noticed how Marcus kept them in shadows, away from security cameras, his military training showing through. She thought about his Sarah, about her own mother, about all the women trapped in powerful men's games. Marcus, she said as they turned down an alley, when this is over, maybe we can get justice for Sarah too. He didn't respond, but his step faltered slightly. In the fading light, Isabella saw him wipe his eyes. The cough started that night. At first, Marcus tried to hide it, muffling the sound in his sleeve as they bedded down in an abandoned garage one of his veteran friends had suggested. By morning, his breathing was labored, and Isabella could feel the heat radiating from his skin. It's nothing, he insisted, but his voice was hoarse. Just a cold. Isabella felt his forehead. You're burning up. You need medicine. No hospitals. He caught her wrist as she withdrew her hand, inadvertently touching the expensive watch she still wore. And you need to get rid of that. It's too recognizable. The watch had been her 16th birthday present. Cartier, rose gold, worth more than most people made in a year. She'd kept it as a last resort, knowing its value. We can pawn it, she said. Get money for antibiotics. Marcus shook his head, then winced at the movement. Too risky. High-end piece like that, they'll ask questions. But as his fever rose through the morning, Isabella made her decision. While Marcus dozed fitfully, she slipped out, finding the pawn shop they'd passed the day before. The owner's eyes lit up when she placed the watch on the counter. Cartier Ballon Bleu. Beautiful piece. He adjusted his glasses. Don't see many of these in my shop. May I ask how you acquired it? Isabella had rehearsed her story. It was my mother's. She passed recently. I see. He turned the watch over, examining the serial number. Mind if I check something? Isabella's heart raced as he picked up his phone. She knew what he would find. The watch was registered to her name, likely flagged as stolen by now. Actually, she said quickly, snatching it back, I'm sorry. I can't. It has too much sentimental value. The owner's eyes narrowed. He reached for his phone again, but Isabella was already hurrying out the door. Through the window, she saw him speaking urgently into the receiver. She ran, her pregnant body protesting the sudden exertion. 2 blocks away, she ducked into a dollar store, heart pounding. Minutes later, a police car cruised past. When she finally made it back to the garage, Marcus was sitting up, his face drawn with worry and fever. Where were you? His voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. She showed him the watch. I tried to, but they got suspicious. He closed his eyes briefly. They'll be checking security cameras. We need to move. You can barely stand. Better than getting caught. He struggled to his feet, swaying slightly. No, another place. Bit further, but safer. They made it 3 blocks before Marcus's legs gave out. Isabella caught him as best she could, helping him sit against a wall. His skin burned against hers. Wait here, she said. Please, let me find help. Too dangerous. But his protest was weak. Isabella touched the watch again, then unclasped it, looking at the inscription inside. To Isabella, all my love, Daddy. With sudden resolution, she walked to the corner and dropped it into a storm drain. The soft splash felt like letting go of her old life. A block away, she found what she was looking for, a free clinic run by a church. Different from the one they'd visited before, the nurse who answered her desperate knock took one look at her face and said, What do you need, honey? My father. Isabella stumbled over the word, realizing it felt right. He's very sick. Fever, coughing. But we can't. We don't ask questions here. The nurse grabbed a medical bag. Show me. When they reached Marcus, his fever had spiked higher. The nurse, Sister Rebecca, according to her name tag, examined him efficiently. Pneumonia. I'd guess. He needs antibiotics. She pulled out a prescription pad. I know a pharmacy that works with us. They don't ask for ID. As Sister Rebecca helped Isabella get Marcus to his feet, she added quietly, "We have rooms, above the clinic, for people who need time, space to figure things out." Isabella met the nurse's understanding gaze. We're not connected to any other organizations. No computers, no reports, just God's work as we see it. Sister Rebecca smiled. Think about it. Later, in a small but clean room above the clinic, Marcus's fever finally broke. Isabella sat beside his cot, watching his breathing ease. "The watch?" he asked weakly. "Gone, that life's gone." She took his hand. "But I think I found something better." The soup kitchen badge dangled from Sister Mary's neck as she stirred the large pot of stew. She'd been wearing it for 15 years, a simple plastic rectangle with her photo and the words, "St. Michael's Community Kitchen Coordinator." 2. Chicago's homeless population. It was as good as a badge of honor. "You're sure they weren't police?" she asked, listening to Isabella's account of the pawn shop incident. "Private investigators, most likely," Marcus answered. His voice was stronger after 3 days of antibiotics, though still rough. "They're more dangerous, less rules." Sister Mary ladled stew into containers while the kitchen was still empty. Her morning routine, but today it felt like a covert operation. "Rebecca called me," she said, handing them the food. "You're safe at her clinic for now, but we need a longer-term solution." She touched her badge thoughtfully. "I might know someone." A noise at the kitchen door made them all freeze. Sister Mary quickly motioned Marcus and Isabella toward the pantry. Through the crack, Isabella watched as 2 men in expensive suits entered. "Sister Mary?" The taller one flashed a PI license. "We're following up on a missing persons case. Teenage girl, pregnant. Might have passed through here, Sister." Mary's hand went to her badge, a habit when she was thinking. "We serve hundreds of people every week. This one would stand out." He held up Isabella's photo. Isabella Montgomery, her father's very concerned. William Montgomery's daughter. Sister Mary's surprise sounded genuine. "The billionaire? Why would she come here? We have to check everywhere." He handed her a card. "Call if you see her. There's a substantial reward." After they left, Sister Mary locked the door and beckoned Marcus and Isabella out. "They're making the rounds of all the shelters," she said grimly. "Rebecca's clinic isn't registered as a shelter." "That's good, but they'll figure it out eventually." "How did you do that?" Isabella asked. "Sound so surprised about who I was." Sister Mary's eyes twinkled. "Honey, I worked in theater before I took my vows, but that's not important right now." She unclipped her badge, turning it over to show a list of numbers written on the back. "These are people we can trust. Other sisters, some veterans, a few cops who remember what protect and serve really means." Marcus recognized one of the numbers. "Andy Martinez from the Rangers? Runs a halfway house now, off the books." Sister Mary's expression turned serious. "But there's something else you need to know. A woman came to the kitchen yesterday. Said she was your mother's friend from college." Isabella's breath caught. Lisa Chen. She left this." Sister Mary pulled an envelope from her pocket. "Said to tell you your mother wanted you to have it. I didn't open it." Isabella's hands shook as she broke the seal. Inside was a letter and a key. "Mom has a private account," she whispered, reading. "One Dad doesn't know about. She's been saving for years, preparing." She looked up, tears in her eyes. She knew someday one of us would need to run. Marcus read over her shoulder. "That's good. Money means options, but using it could lead them to you. Not this account." Isabella kept reading. "It's in the Caymans, under Mom's maiden name. Lisa helps women set them up, keeps them off the record." Sister Mary's badge glinted in the kitchen light. "Your mother's a brave woman." I never knew. Isabella touched her belly. I thought she was weak, letting Dad control everything, but she was fighting in her own way. Sometimes the quietest battles are the most important. Sister Mary took her badge off entirely, pressing it into Isabella's hands. Keep this. Flash it if you're ever in trouble and can't reach me. Every shelter in Chicago knows it. I can't. Take your badge, Isabella protested. I've got spares, and you need protection more than I do right now. She checked her watch. The breakfast crowd will be here soon. You should go. I'll contact Andy. Start setting things up. As they left through the back door, Sister Mary called softly, Isabella, your mother would be proud of you. Back at the clinic, Rebecca helped them pack supplies, antibiotics for Marcus, prenatal vitamins, food that would keep. The baby? Marcus asked when Isabella winced. Just kicking, strong today. But her hand pressed her side. Rebecca noticed. Let me check you before you go anywhere. The examination was quick but thorough. Rebecca's frown returned. Blood pressure's still high. And the baby's position, she sighed. You need real medical care soon. A proper hospital. They'll be watching all the hospitals, Marcus said. Then we'll have to make other arrangements. Rebecca wrote another number on Sister Mary's badge. My sister's a midwife, very off-grid. You might need her. Isabella stared at the badge, now carrying their growing network of allies. A plastic rectangle that represented so much more. Hope, protection, community. Thank you, she whispered. All of you. The emergency weather radio crackled to life in Sister Rebecca's office, its red warning light pulsing steadily. The automated voice cut through the quiet morning. The National Weather Service has issued a severe winter storm warning for the greater Chicago area. Expected accumulation of 18 to 24 inches. Temperatures dropping to minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Blizzard conditions likely. All residents advised to seek immediate shelter. Marcus's jaw tightened as he listened. How long until it hits? Sister Rebecca adjusted the radio's frequency. 6 hours, maybe less. They're saying it could be the worst storm in a decade. Isabella stood at the window, watching dark clouds gathering over Lake Michigan. Her back ached more than usual today, and the baby was restless. We can't stay here, Marcus said quietly. Too many people will be seeking shelter from the storm. Someone might recognize her. The halfway house Andy mentioned, Sister Rebecca began. Too far. We'd never make it before the storm hits. Marcus ran a hand through his grey-streaked hair. I know a place, old manufacturing plant. The security guard's a vet, lets us shelter there sometimes. The radio crackled again. Emergency vehicles are being positioned throughout the city. Residents in at-risk housing should evacuate immediately. At least take supplies. Sister Rebecca began gathering items, blankets, hand warmers, energy bars. And this, she handed Marcus the radio. It's battery-powered. Keep it on. As they prepared to leave, a commotion erupted downstairs. Through the clinic's window, they saw several black SUVs pulling up. Private security, Marcus muttered. They're checking emergency shelters first. Sister Rebecca pointed to the fire escape. Go. I'll stall them. The metal stairs were already slick with freezing rain. Isabella clutched the railing, moving, as quickly as her pregnancy allowed. Above them, wind whipped between buildings, carrying the first flakes of snow. They made it 3 blocks before the contractions started. Marcus, Isabella gasped, doubling over. Something's wrong. He helped her into a doorway, sheltered from the wind. Her face was pale, beaded with sweat despite the cold. How far apart? I don't know, it's too early. Fear crept into her voice. The baby's not due for 6 more weeks. The radio in Marcus's pack suddenly blared. Wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour expected. Whiteout conditions developing. All travel strongly. Discouraged, Marcus made a decision. We need to go back. No! They'll be waiting. You need medical care. Now! A siren wailed nearby. Through the thickening snow, they saw an ambulance navigating the increasingly treacherous streets. We could flag them down, Isabella suggested weakly. Marcus shook his head. They'll take you to the nearest hospital, Preston owned. Another contraction hit, stronger this time. Isabella grabbed Marcus's arm, her knuckles white. The radio continued its warnings. Emergency shelters are opening across the city, located at the following addresses. Marcus listened intently, mapping options in his head. The security guard's factory was still 10 blocks away. In good weather, maybe, but now, listen to me, he said, taking Isabella's shoulders. The storm's forcing them to spread their search thin. They can't watch everything. There's a shelter 3 blocks east in the old high school. Good sight lines, multiple exits. We hole up there until the storm passes. But if someone recognizes me, we'll be ready to move if we have to. But right now, you and the baby need warmth and medical supplies. He held up Sister Mary's badge. This will get us in without questions. The wind was picking up, driving snow sideways now. Isabella nodded, understanding they were out of options. They moved slowly, Marcus supporting most of her weight. The radio continued its litany of warnings, but they could barely hear it over the storm's growing fury. 2 blocks from the shelter, headlights cut through the snow behind them. Marcus pulled them into a recessed doorway, holding his breath as the black SUV crept past. They're not giving up, Isabella whispered. They don't know these streets like I do. Marcus checked around the corner. Almost there. Can you make it? Isabella straightened, one hand on her belly. We'll make it. We have to. The radio's voice competed with the howling wind. Due to extreme conditions, city officials are declaring a state of emergency. The high school's gymnasium had been transformed into an emergency shelter. Cots lined up in neat rows. Sister Mary's badge had worked exactly as promised. No questions asked, just grateful acceptance of 2 more souls seeking refuge from the storm. In the dim light of emergency generators, Isabella held the burner phone Sister Mary had slipped her. A simple flip phone, prepaid, impossible to trace. The kind used by people who needed to disappear. Marcus's fever had returned, his breathing labored in the cot next to hers. The storm's moisture had settled in his lungs, undoing days of recovery. But he'd refused to let the shelter's medic examine him, afraid of drawing attention. "Mom," Isabella whispered to herself, thumb hovering over the keypad. She knew the number by heart. Her mother always kept her personal cell phone close, even at night. A particularly vicious contraction made her bite back a cry. They were getting stronger, closer together. Too close. The phone's display glowed. 2:47 a.m. A young doctor who'd been stranded at the shelter made his rounds. He paused at Marcus's coughing. "Sir, I should really check those lungs." "I'm fine," Marcus managed between coughs. The doctor frowned but moved on. Isabella waited until he was out of earshot. "You're not fine," she whispered. "And I'm not fine. We need help." Marcus's hand found hers in the darkness. "Your father, not him. Mom. She's been preparing for something like this. The account she set up proves it." Another contraction. Isabella squeezed Marcus's hand until it passed. "Too risky," he wheezed. "Phones might be tapped." Outside, the storm raged. The radio on the shelter coordinator's desk crackled with updates. About roads being closed, power lines down across the city. Isabella opened the phone, then closed it, opened it again. The baby kicked hard, as if offering an opinion. "What would your Sarah do?" she asked softly. Marcus was quiet so long she thought he'd fallen asleep. Finally he said, "She'd find a way to fight that didn't get anyone killed." A crash of thunder rattled the gymnasium windows. Several children in the shelter began crying. The young doctor hurried to calm them. Isabella's fingers moved over the keypad, muscle memory taking over. The phone rang once, twice. "Hello?" Her mother's voice, wary of the unknown number. Isabella's. Throat closed. All her practiced words vanished. "Who is this?" A pause. "Isabella, baby, is that you?" "Mom." She choked on the word. "I need the baby. Are you safe? Are you hurt?" "I'm okay, but..." Another contraction hit. Isabella breathed through it. Something's wrong. The baby's coming too early. Where are you? I'll come alone, I promise. Marcus's hand tightened on hers in warning. Can't tell you, Isabella managed. Dad's people are everywhere, but Mom, I found someone who knows about Preston Medical Group, about what they did to Sarah Stone. Silence on the line. Then, oh God, the nurse who died. Isabella, what do you know? Enough to understand why you set up that escape account. You knew what kind of men they were, what they're capable of. More silence. Wind howled outside. The merger, her mother said finally. It was never about combining companies, was it? No. Preston wants control of both. Through me, through the baby. Isabella's voice broke. They were going to take my baby, Mom. Listen carefully. Her mother's voice turned sharp, focused. I'm going to call in some favors, people who owe me, not your father. There's a private clinic on the north side, no connection to Preston. I can have a car there in an hour. The storm, trust me, these people can handle it. A pause. And Isabella, bring them, both of them. Anyone who's protected you this long, they're family now. Marcus's coughing grew worse. The young doctor was heading back their way, concern evident on his face. 1 hour, Isabella said. But Mom, if this is a trap, never. I've spent 17 years unable to protect you from them. Not anymore. Her voice cracked. I love you, baby. The line went dead. Isabella snapped the phone shut, then removed its battery the way Marcus had taught her. Well, he asked between coughs, we've got a choice to make. Isabella looked at the approaching doctor, at the storm-rattled windows, at Marcus's pale face. Trust or run. The decision was made for them when Marcus's coughing turned into a choking fit. The young doctor rushed over, and this time Marcus was too weak to protest the examination. This is pneumonia, the doctor said firmly. Serious. You need IV antibiotics. Isabella felt the weight of her mother's ring on her finger, the last piece of her old life she hadn't discarded. A simple platinum band with the Montgomery crest given to all family members on their 16th birthday. She twisted it nervously. Doctor, she said quietly, if I told you I could get him to a private clinic, one with full facilities, could he make it another hour? The doctor's eyes narrowed, taking in her expensive maternity coat, the ring, Marcus's protective positioning despite his illness. You're her, aren't you? The missing Montgomery girl. Isabella's heart stopped, but the doctor wasn't reaching for a phone or calling security. My sister, he said softly, ran from an abusive marriage last year. Rich family, powerful connections. Sometimes running is the only sane choice. He checked Marcus's pulse, then made a decision. I'll get a portable oxygen tank. It'll help until you can reach proper care. But you need to hurry, both of you. These aren't just contractions you're having. The baby's in distress. Isabella stared at her ring. The Montgomery crest, a lion holding a key, blurred through her tears. Marcus, she took his hand. I have to tell you everything before you decide if you're coming with me. Between labored breaths, he nodded. The baby, it's Preston's son's. Not because I loved him. She twisted the ring harder. He cornered me at a charity gala. Dad's security was there but looked the other way. I think they were told to. Marcus's hand tightened. On hers, his eyes fierce despite the fever. Afterward, Dad said it was fortuitous, said it meant the merger had to happen now, the Preston heir and the Montgomery heir. She choked on bitter laughter. A perfect business union, all neat and tidy, with me trapped in the middle. The adoption papers, Marcus wheezed. Preston's lawyer said the baby would go to a selected family, but I found the paperwork. They have a couple on payroll, professional adopters. Take babies, raise them until they're needed, like keeping spare parts in storage. The doctor returned with an oxygen tank and mask. While he helped Marcus, Isabella removed her ring. Mom knew something was wrong. She kept trying to warn me in her way. Left articles about Preston Medical Group's lawsuits on my desk, about Missing funds, suspicious deaths, like Sarah's. She placed the ring in Marcus's palm. You asked once why I trusted you that first night. The truth is, I saw your blanket, the military one. Dad's security chief has the same one. He was Rangers too, talked about the Brotherhood. I hoped. You took a chance, Marcus said through the oxygen mask. Like Sarah did, helping those women at the hospital. Before they silenced her, the doctor finished adjusting. The oxygen flow. Whatever you're going to do it now. The storm's supposed to get worse, and he needs real medical care within the hour. Isabella felt another contraction building. I know a clinic. Mom's sending transport. But Marcus, it means facing my family, using my real name, maybe even fighting them legally. Good. Marcus's voice was weak but determined. Some battles need fighting in the open. He tried to return the ring, but she closed his fingers over it. Keep it in case we get separated. It'll prove your connection to me. She managed a small smile. Besides, you're more family to me now than most people who wear one. The doctor returned with a wheelchair. Transport's here, some kind of military-grade vehicle. They say they're friends of your mother's? Marcus nodded. Sarah's old network. They help people disappear or reappear when it's time to fight. The military transport vehicle turned out to be a modified Humvee, its snow tires cutting through the growing drifts with practiced ease. The driver, a woman with close-cropped grey hair, introduced herself only as Cap. Sarah Stone saved my wife's life, she said, helping them inside. Never got to repay that debt until now. In the back of the vehicle, Isabella found a duffel bag. Inside were bus tickets to 5 different cities, each under a different name, along with matching IDs. Your mother's been planning, Cap said, noting Isabella's surprise. Those tickets are real purchases, by the way. PIs will be chasing leads. In 5 directions by morning. Marcus's oxygen tank hissed steadily as they navigated the empty streets. The storm had worsened, wind rocking even their heavy vehicle. We're being followed, Cap announced calmly. Black SUV, 3 cars back. Professional driver, they're handling the snow too well. Isabella felt her stomach clench, and not from contractions. Preston's security, based on the driving pattern. Yeah, Cap took a sharp turn. Hold on! The Humvee powered through an alley, snow spraying from its tires. Isabella gripped Marcus's hand as they emerged onto a wider street. Second vehicle, Cap reported. They're trying to box us in. Marcus pulled the oxygen mask aside. Downtown Loop, he wheezed. Construction site on Jackson. The underground access. Cap nodded grimly. Good thinking, soldier. She swung the vehicle hard, tires skidding on ice. The pursuing SUVs fell, back slightly, less confident on the treacherous roads. Isabella's contractions were coming faster now. She tried to focus on the bus tickets in her hand, reading the destinations. Seattle, Miami, Boston, Denver, Atlanta. Her mother had thought of everything. Nearly there, Cap said, but our friends are calling for backup. Radio chatters picking up. They rounded a corner to find a third SUV waiting, lights off. Cap didn't hesitate. She aimed straight for it. Brace! At the last second, the SUV's driver lost his nerve, swerving onto the sidewalk. Cap shot past, then down a ramp into a construction site's underground parking level. They won't follow us in here, she said. Too easy to get trapped. But Isabella heard the engines behind them. They're coming anyway. Amateurs. Cap killed. Their lights navigating by memory. Playing tough guy in a storm like this, the pursuing vehicle's headlights created a maze of shadows. Cap wove through concrete pillars, the Humvee's special tires finding grip where others would slip. Marcus started coughing again, the oxygen tank rattling. Isabella felt his forehead. The fever was spiking. How far to the clinic? She asked, trying to keep panic from her voice. 10 minutes in good weather. Cap checked her mirrors. In this, with them, longer, a massive contraction doubled Isabella over. This time, she felt something different. Pressure, release, wet. My water broke, she gasped. Cap swore under her breath. New plan. She swung the vehicle toward a service tunnel. Behind them, one of the SUVs attempted the same turn and slid into a pillar. That'll slow them down, Cap said with grim satisfaction. But we're about to have company up top. They'll be radioing positions. Isabella clutched the bus tickets, now damp with sweat. 5 escape routes, all useless. The baby was coming, Marcus was burning up, and Preston's men were closing in. The clinic, she said through gritted teeth. We have to risk it. Negative, Marcus managed. Too many ways to trap us there. Then where? Cap's answer was cut off by a crash behind them. The remaining SUVs had found the tunnel entrance. Sister Mary, Marcus wheezed. The church. Cap nodded. Holy ground. Harder for them to operate openly. And closer. Another contraction ripped through Isabella. She felt the baby dropping lower. Decide fast, Cap urged. We're running out of tunnel. St. Michael's Church rose like a stone fortress through the swirling snow. Cap brought the Humvee to a stop at a side door where Sister Mary already waited with 2 large orderlies. Quickly, she urged, helping them inside. The baby? Coming. Fast, Isabella gasped. Too fast. They hurried through candlelit corridors. The storm had knocked out power to this part of the city. In the church's small infirmary, a woman in scrubs waited. I'm Dr. Chen, she said, helping Isabella onto a bed. Lisa Chen. I was your mother's roommate at Sarah's friend, Marcus interrupted, recognition in his fever-bright eyes. From the hospital. Lisa's face tightened. Yes. I left Preston Medical Group after what they did to her. Started an underground clinic for women who need to disappear. She pulled a folder from her bag. Women like Isabella. The folder contained adoption papers, not Preston's, but different ones, dated 3 months ago, in Isabella's handwriting. You knew, Isabella whispered, remembering. That day I came to your clinic, scared and alone. You were 17, pregnant, and asking about adoption options. Lisa checked Isabella's blood pressure. I recognized you immediately. Called your mother that night. Another contraction hit, stronger than before. When it passed, Isabella asked, the adoption agency you recommended? Legitimate. No connection. To Preston. The papers are real, filed with the court. Lisa's eyes were kind. Your mother knew you might need an escape route, a way to protect the baby legally. Marcus's coughing drew Lisa's attention. She quickly hooked him to an IV. Broad-spectrum antibiotics should help the pneumonia. Sister Mary entered with an update. Preston's security is outside the perimeter. They're demanding we turn her. Over? On what authority? Lisa asked sharply. They're claiming she's mentally unstable, that the pregnancy is affecting her judgment. They have a court order for psychiatric evaluation. Signed by a Preston Medical Group doctor, no doubt. Lisa's voice was bitter. Isabella clutched Marcus's hand. They can't take me, not now. No one's taking anyone. Sister Mary's voice carried steel. This is a church, not a hospital. Their court order holds no power here. And the storm works. In our favor, no judge will sign an emergency order tonight. Another contraction. Isabella cried out. 6 centimeters, Lisa announced after checking. Moving fast. Sister, we need hot water, clean towels, and call the number I gave you. Sister Mary nodded and hurried out. Cap took up position by the door, her military bearing obvious. Marcus tried to sit up. Isabella, the papers, she looked at the adoption documents in confusion. What about them? You signed them, before knowing about Preston's plan, before meeting me. His breathing was labored despite the oxygen. You were trying to protect the baby. Even then, Isabella's eyes filled with tears. I wanted my baby to have a choice, a real family, not to be a pawn in some corporate game. You have choices now, Marcus wheezed. People who will stand with you. Lisa injected something into his IV. This will help with the fever. Try to rest. Outside, they heard vehicles arriving. Raised. Voices. Sister Mary's clear tones responding firmly. Bishop's on his way, Cap reported. Church leadership closing ranks. A particularly vicious contraction made Isabella arch off the bed. Lisa checked again. 8 centimeters. No time for hospitals now, even if we could move you. She met Isabella's eyes. Your baby is coming here, tonight. Good, Isabella managed through clenched teeth. Holy ground. They can't touch us here. Marcus squeezed her hand weakly. Family protects family. Lisa looked between them, understanding dawning. Yes, they do. She pulled out her phone. Which is why I'm calling in one more ally. Someone who's been waiting for a chance to fight back. She dialed, then spoke 2 words. It's time. The letter arrived with Eleanor Montgomery herself, who swept into the church infirmary like a winter storm. Her designer coat was dusted with snow, her face pale but determined. Isabella. She rushed to her daughter's side, then stopped short. At the sight of Marcus. You're Sarah Stone's husband. Marcus nodded weakly from his bed. Eleanor pulled an envelope from her coat. Then you should read this first. Her hands shook as she passed it to him. Sarah wrote it the day before. She died. It was meant for the medical board, but Preston's lawyers buried it. I found it in my husband's safe. Isabella watched Marcus unfold the letter, his oxygen mask fogging with his rapid breaths. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to document systematic negligence at Preston Medical Group facilities. As head nurse in obstetrics, I've witnessed concerning patterns in high-profile deliveries. Wealthy families paying to resolve unwanted pregnancies. Infants disappearing into a network of private adoptions. Birth records altered. More disturbing are the connections to Preston pharmaceutical trials. Pregnant women from vulnerable populations volunteering for experimental drugs. Data manipulation to hide adverse effects. I've gathered evidence including names, dates, and internal documents. This goes beyond medical malpractice. James Preston II isn't just covering up negligence. He's running a criminal enterprise using the hospital system. If anything happens to me, give this information to... The letter ended there. The next day, Sarah had died during a routine procedure. They killed her, Marcus whispered, because she knew. Yes, Eleanor's voice broke. When William arranged Isabella's marriage to James III, I recognized the pattern. The same one Sarah died trying to expose. They wanted access to Montgomery money to expand their operation. A contraction seized Isabella. Through the pain, she gasped. Dad knew? He suspected something wasn't right. But Preston had leverage. Old debts, compromising information. Eleanor stroked Isabella's hair. When you got pregnant, I knew we had to act. Sarah's network was still out there. Lisa helped me connect. The infirmary door burst open. William Montgomery entered, followed by James Preston III and 2 security men. That's enough, Eleanor. William's voice was tight. Isabella needs psychiatric care. The court order doesn't apply on church property. Sister Mary stepped forward. And you're interrupting a medical procedure. James Preston III smoothed his expensive suit. Isabella, darling, you're not thinking clearly. The stress of pregnancy. Don't. Isabella's voice shook with rage. Don't pretend you care about my stress. Not after what you did. What your family did to Sarah Stone. James's face hardened. I don't know what stories you've been told. Stories? Marcus struggled to sit up. I have proof. Sarah's letter. Names, dates, evidence of everything Preston Medical Group has been hiding. A letter from a confused nurse who died years ago? James laughed. Hardly evidence. No, came a new voice, but hospital records are. Lisa Chen stood in the doorway, holding a tablet. Behind her were 2 FBI agents. Agent Roberts, FBI Healthcare Fraud Unit, one said, showing his badge. We've been building a case against Preston Medical Group for years. Dr. Chen has been our inside source, gathering documentation of their adoption network and drug trial violations. William Montgomery went pale. You don't understand. The implications for both companies are nothing compared to what they did to those mothers. Those babies. Eleanor's voice was steel. Sarah died trying to protect them. I won't let Isabella and her child be next. Another contraction ripped through Isabella. Lisa rushed to check her. 10 centimeters, she announced. Time to push. James Preston III took a step forward. Two things happened simultaneously. Cap drew a weapon, and Marcus pulled Sarah's letter close. "Touch her," Marcus wheezed. "And this letter goes public, along with everything else Sarah found, everything Lisa's documented since. How many careers will that end? How many investigations will it trigger?" William looked between his daughter and James Preston III. For the first time, Isabella saw uncertainty in her father's eyes. "William," Eleanor's voice was quiet but firm. "Choose your family. For once, choose your family." The hospital bracelet dangled from Isabella's wrist, stark white against her skin. Lisa had insisted on it, writing Isabella Montgomery in clear letters. No more hiding, no more running. "Push!" Lisa commanded as another contraction hit. Isabella bore down, gripping her mother's hand. The storm rattled the church windows, but inside, time seemed suspended in the space between heartbeats. William Montgomery stood frozen, watching his daughter fight to bring new life into the world. James Preston III had backed away, his face a mask of calculating fury. "Dad!" Isabella gasped between contractions. "Dad, please!" Something broke in William's expression. He looked at the FBI agents, at Marcus with Sarah's letter, at his wife's resolute face. Years of compromises and deals and looking the other way. All of it crashing down around him. "Get out," he said quietly to James. "Get out of my daughter's life." "You can't be serious," James's voice rose. "Do you know what my father will do? The consequences are nothing," William cut him off, "compared to what I'll do if you don't leave this room right now." The baby's head was crowning. Isabella screamed, bearing down again. "Security," William barked at his men. "Remove Mr. Preston, and if any of his people try to enter this church, deal with them." James took a step toward Isabella. "That's my child." "No." Marcus's voice was weak but carried the weight of command. "That's Sarah's legacy, all those mothers and babies she died trying to protect. This ends here." The FBI agents moved to flank James. "Mr. Preston, we have some questions about your family's medical facilities. We can do this here or downtown." James straightened his tie, dignity cracking. "My lawyers will have their hands full," Agent Roberts said, "once the evidence goes public. Your choice." Another push. Isabella felt like she was being torn apart. "I see the head," Lisa announced. "One more big push." Eleanor wiped Isabella's forehead with a cool cloth. "You're doing so well, baby. So brave." William approached Marcus's bed slowly. "I didn't know about Sarah, about what they were really doing. I should have looked harder." "You knew enough," Marcus said. "Question is, what are you going to do now?" The baby's shoulders emerged. Isabella gathered her last strength and pushed with everything she had. A cry split the air, strong, defiant, alive. "It's a girl," Lisa said, tears in her eyes. "A beautiful, healthy girl." She placed the squalling infant on Isabella's chest. The hospital bracelet brushed against the baby's skin as Isabella drew her close. "Sarah," she whispered. "Her name is Sarah." Marcus's oxygen mask fogged with tears. Eleanor squeezed his hand. "Perfect name," she said softly, "for a fighter." William stared at his granddaughter, then pulled out his phone. "Janet, call the board, emergency meeting, and get me every scrap of data on Preston Medical Group's adoptions for the past 20 years. Every transaction, every connection." He looked at the FBI agents. "You'll have full cooperation." Sister Mary appeared with warm blankets. Outside, they could hear James Preston III being led away, his threats fading down the corridor. "Blood pressure's stabilizing," Lisa reported, checking Isabella's vitals. "But we should move you both to my clinic once the storm breaks, somewhere safe to recover." The baby, Sarah, nuzzled against Isabella's chest, already rooting for food. So small, yet so determined to live, to thrive. "Safe," Isabella echoed, looking around the room. At Marcus, her chosen protector, at her mother who had worked so long in secret to save her. at her father, finally choosing right over expedient, at Lisa, carrying on her friend's fight, at Sister Mary and Cap, who had risked everything for justice. The storm outside began to ease, as if nature itself was acknowledging the turning tide. The first photograph of baby Sarah was taken on Sister Mary's old Polaroid camera. In it, Marcus held the tiny bundle with trembling hands, his oxygen mask pushed aside, his eyes filled with a light that erased years of hardship from his face. "Got to document the important moments," Sister Mary said, waving the photo to help it develop. Some things shouldn't live only in memory. The storm had passed, leaving behind a hushed world of white. Dawn was breaking over Chicago, painting the snow-covered church windows in soft pink light. Isabella watched from her bed as Marcus whispered to her daughter. His fever had finally broken, though Lisa insisted he keep the IV antibiotics running. "Telling her about her namesake?" Isabella asked. Marcus nodded. "About how brave she was, how she never looked away from wrong, even when it cost her everything." He touched the baby's cheek. "This little one's got that same spark. You can see it in her eyes." Eleanor entered with coffee and news. "FBI's been busy all night. They're raiding Preston Medical Group offices across the state. William's turning over everything, records, emails, offshore accounts. Dad's really doing it?" Isabella's voice held cautious hope. "More than that." Eleanor sat beside her daughter. "He's called an emergency board meeting, proposing a complete audit of Montgomery Financial's healthcare investments. No stone unturned." The baby started fussing. Isabella unbuttoned her gown, guiding her daughter to nurse. The most natural thing in the world, yet a moment that had almost been stolen from them. "What happens now?" she asked. "To the Prestons?" "James III was arrested an hour ago," Eleanor replied. "His father's plane was stopped before takeoff in Geneva. It's all coming down." She watched her granddaughter nurse. "But that's not what I meant by what happens now." Lisa came in to check vitals, smiling at the nursing baby. "Both looking good. Strong appetite, good color. Marcus, your lungs are clearing nicely." "Thanks to you," he said. "All of you. Sarah would be proud." Lisa touched the developing Polaroid. "Of how we all came together. Even you, Eleanor, working in secret all those years, building a network." "I was a coward." Eleanor shook her head. "Should have fought openly like Sarah did." "You fought smart," Marcus countered. "Kept people alive. Built something that could finish what Sarah started." William Montgomery appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted but resolute. He held a stack of papers. "The board approved emergency funding," he said, "for a new foundation. Independent oversight of medical facilities, advocacy for patient rights, support for whistleblowers." He paused. "We're calling it the Sarah Stone Foundation." Marcus's breath caught. Isabella reached for his hand. "There's more," William continued. "The old Preston Medical Group buildings. Once the investigations are complete, we'd like to convert them. Free clinics, domestic violence shelters, temporary housing for families in crisis. Run by people we trust," Eleanor added. "Lisa, Sister Mary. People who understand what it means to protect the vulnerable." The baby finished nursing. Isabella adjusted her gown, then looked at Marcus. "Will you help?" she asked. "Be part of building something new?" "Me?" He seemed startled. "You know the streets," Isabella said. "Know what people really need, how to reach them, help them. And you understand sacrifice," William added quietly. "What it costs to stand up to power. We need that perspective." Marcus looked at the Polaroid in his hands, himself holding Sarah's namesake, surrounded by people who had become family. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'll help, for both Sarahs." The baby made a tiny sighing sound, settling into sleep. Outside, the city was awakening to a transformed world, where snow had made everything clean and new. 1 month later, Marcus stood before the old Preston Medical Group building, its imposing facade softened by morning light. In his hands, he held the property deed. 20 pages of legal language that transformed a symbol of corruption into a beacon of hope. "Ready?" Isabella asked, adjusting baby Sarah in her carrier. The infant was growing strong, her dark eyes taking in everything with characteristic intensity. "Almost feels like a dream," Marcus admitted. "From sleeping in doorways to running. A shelter, Director of Outreach Services," Isabella corrected, "has a better ring to it." They climbed the steps together. Inside, construction crews were already at work, transforming sterile hospital corridors into welcoming spaces. The main lobby would become a day center, with computer stations for job searches and quiet areas for counseling. "Marcus!" Tom, his old veteran friend from the shelter, waved from where he was installing new security cameras. "Looking sharp, boss." Marcus tugged self-consciously at his new jacket. Eleanor had insisted on taking him shopping, ignoring his protests about charity. "It's not charity," she'd said firmly. "It's investing in our leadership team." Now, watching Tom work, Marcus saw what she'd meant. Every person they hired from the homeless community brought vital experience, understanding, and credibility to their mission. William Montgomery emerged from what would become the clinic wing, Lisa Chen at his side. "The medical licensing board approved our application," Lisa announced. "We can start seeing patients next month. Free care, no questions asked." "And the secure floor?" Marcus asked. "Ready for domestic violence survivors," William confirmed. "State-of-the-art security, completely off-grid, names changed in all records." He handed Marcus another document, an amendment to the property deed establishing the building as a permanent trust. "Once it's running smoothly here, we'll start converting the other Preston properties, create a network," baby Sarah fussed. Isabella soothed her, humming softly, the same lullaby Marcus had heard Eleanor singing in the church that first night. "Speaking of networks," Lisa said, "I got a call from Minneapolis. Another whistleblower from a Preston facility. She's gathered evidence of similar adoption schemes. FBI's already moving on it." William nodded. "The Foundation's legal team will support her." Marcus traced the property deed's embossed seal. "Sarah always said the system could work if people fought for what's right instead of what's profitable." "She was right," Isabella touched his arm. "And now we have the resources to prove it." Sister Mary arrived with Cap, both carrying boxes of supplies. "First residents arrive next week," Sister Mary announced. "Word spreading on the streets. People know this is different. Because of who's running it," Cap added, setting down her box. "They trust you, Marcus. Trust what you've built here." "What we've all built," he corrected. Eleanor appeared with coffee for everyone, not from an expensive cafe, but from the same cart vendor who'd often slipped Marcus free cups on cold mornings. "To new beginnings," she said, passing out the cups. Marcus watched his unlikely family. Isabella discussing security protocols with Cap, William and Lisa reviewing clinic plans, Sister Mary directing volunteers, Eleanor cradling her granddaughter. The property deed in his hands represented more than a building. It was a bridge between worlds that should never have been separated. "You know," he said quietly to baby Sarah, who had dozed off against his chest, "your namesake once told me that real change happens when people stop seeing differences and start seeing possibilities." The morning sun streamed through newly cleaned windows, illuminating the Foundation's motto freshly painted on the wall. "In memory of Sarah Stone, every life has value, every story matters." The new military medal gleamed against Marcus's suit jacket, the Civilian Service Cross, presented by his old Army Rangers Command for his work with homeless veterans. He stood at the podium, uncomfortable with the attention, but understanding its importance. "A year ago," he began, "I was sleeping in a doorway when a pregnant teenager changed my life. Some would call it chance. I call it purpose." In the audience, Isabella sat with 1-year-old Sarah on her lap. The baby wore a tiny dress Eleanor had sewn, incorporating a piece of Marcus's old military blanket in its hem, a reminder of where their journey had begun. "This medal honors service," Marcus continued, "but the real honor belongs to another Sarah, a nurse who gave her life fighting for justice, who taught us that sometimes the greatest acts of courage happen in hospital, the corridors, not battlefields." The Sarah Stone Foundation's first-year statistics appeared on the screen behind him. 3 clinics opened, 200 families housed, 40 whistleblowers protected, thousands of lives touched. "But numbers don't tell the real story," Marcus said. "The real story is in the mother who found safety for her children, the veteran who got a second chance, the doctor who chose truth over profit." William Montgomery stood at the back, watching his granddaughter play with the medal on Marcus's jacket. The past year had aged him, fighting legal battles and corporate resistance, but his eyes were clearer than they'd ever been. "The foundation isn't just about helping people," Marcus continued. "It's about changing how we see each other. Rich, poor, powerful, powerless. Those aren't walls, they're illusions. We built ourselves." Eleanor wiped tears as Lisa Chen took the stage, presenting their latest initiative, a nationwide network of medical accountability officers trained to spot and stop abuse before it started. "We call them Sarah's Sentinels," Lisa announced, "because some legacies deserve to live forever." After the ceremony, they gathered in what had once been Preston Medical Group's executive boardroom. Now it was a community space, its walls covered with photos of success stories. At the center hung the original Polaroid from the church, Marcus holding newborn Sarah. "To think," Isabella said, watching her daughter toddle between Marcus's legs. "All this started because I was too cold to keep walking that night." "No," Marcus corrected gently. "It started because you were brave enough to stop running, to fight instead." The medal caught the light as he bent to scoop up little Sarah. She immediately reached for it, fascinated by its shine. "That's right. Little warrior," he said. "Always reach for the light." Tom entered with news from the street outreach team. 3 more veterans brought in from the cold, 2 domestic violence survivors safely relocated, 1 whistleblower from another medical group ready to come forward. "The network's growing," he reported. "Word's spreading. People know they have somewhere to turn now." William joined them, holding a stack of papers. "Board approved the expansion. 3 more clinics next year, plus a dedicated legal aid center." "And the Preston trials?" Marcus asked. "James the Q took a plea deal, turning state's evidence. The whole empire's crumbling." Eleanor watched her granddaughter playing with Marcus's medal. "Sarah, both Sarahs, would be proud of this, of all of us." "They're here," Marcus said quietly. "In every life we save, every wrong we right, every bridge we build." Baby Sarah, as if understanding the weight of her namesake, took the medal and pressed it to her heart, a gesture so like her mother's that Marcus felt his eyes fill. "That's right, little one," he whispered. "Keep it close, keep it strong, keep it true." 5 years to the day after Sarah's birth, they gathered for a family portrait in the foundation's main lobby. The photographer struggled to arrange them all. The family had grown far beyond blood ties. Marcus stood at the center, 6-year-old. Sarah perched on his shoulders. His silver hair had grown distinguished, his bearing still military straight, but softened by years of hugs from the child who called him Grandpa Marcus. Isabella stood beside them, now the foundation's executive director, her hand resting on her very pregnant belly, this time with joy, not fear. William and Eleanor Montgomery flanked them, with Sister Mary and Lisa Chen beside them. Cap and her security team stood proud in their foundation uniforms. Tom represented the veteran outreach program he now led. Dozens of staff members, many former clients themselves, filled the ranks. "Everyone ready?" the photographer called. "Wait!" Little Sarah pointed to the wall behind them, where Sarah Stone's photo hung beside the foundation's mission statement. "Aunt Sarah needs to be in the picture too." They shifted so the portrait would capture both the living family and the legacy that had brought them together. As the camera flashed, Sarah threw her arms wide, trying to hug them all at once. The Sarah Stone Foundation had grown beyond their wildest dreams. 20 clinics across the country, hundreds of lives saved, thousands transformed. The Preston medical empire had crumbled, its facilities converted one by one into havens of healing. But the real victory wasn't in numbers, it was in moments. Like this morning, when Marcus had found a young woman huddled in that same doorway where he'd once found Isabella. "I can't go to a shelter," she'd whispered. "They'll find me." Marcus had shown her his foundation ID. "Then let me tell you a story," he'd said, "about a cold night, a brave girl, and how love can build bridges between any worlds." Now, looking at the gathered family in their portrait, Marcus saw all the bridges they'd built. The scared teenage runaway was now a powerful advocate for justice. The bitter homeless vet had found purpose greater than any military mission. The corporate titan had learned to fight for right instead of profit. The quiet society wife had become a fierce protector of the vulnerable. And little Sarah, child of two worlds, grew up knowing no boundaries between them. She spent her mornings in board meetings and her afternoons playing with shelter kids, equally at home in both spaces. "Perfect shot," the photographer announced. As the group dispersed, Sarah tugged Marcus toward the Foundation's newest project, a wall of keys. Each represented a home found, a life saved, a new start. "Tell me the story again," she begged, touching the first key reverently. "About the night you found Mommy." Marcus lifted her up, remembering that frozen evening when a single act of kindness had changed everything. "Well, little warrior," he began, "sometimes the greatest adventures start in the smallest moments." Isabella joined them, her hand finding Marcus's as it had so many times before. Through the Foundation's windows, they could see the Chicago streets where their story had begun. But now, those streets held hope instead of fear, possibility instead of despair. "And the best part of the story?" Sarah asked, though she knew the answer by heart. Marcus hugged her close, looking at the family portrait that captured all they'd built together. "The best part, little one, is that it never really ends. It just keeps growing one heart at a time."